Hey, what's up everybody, Retro Gaming Guy here. Today in this video we're going to dive in and test out Chris Coolmod's Retro Beast 1TB micro SD card. So I'm going to be using this today on my gaming PC, but you can use this on a laptop, you could use this on some handhelds. So we're going to dive in, see what the performance is like on here, but we're also going to see what it has to offer and what it includes. Let's dive into it. Alright guys, here we are inside the Retro Beast 1TB micro SD card. So we're going to kick everything off on the arcade side of things today. So when we jump into arcade, it populates in just like you see right here. So we have our MAME collection, and we can either go left or right. We're going to scroll through everything to the right now actually. So we're going to go over to MAME favorites here. We have 4-player games, so everything is kind of separated out into sub collections. We have 4-player games here for MAME. We have multiplayer, we have MAME clones, and I'll take a look. I'm not going to jump into every single one of these individual sub collections, but let's go into MAME favorites, where I find that we have kind of the best in here. So this is how everything populates in. Love the look of everything here. You can see every single title populates in slightly differently. So we have a list on the right hand side that shows us the logos for each title. We have a little preview on the left hand side. I like how the top of the arcade there actually populates in with the graphics for each of these. So we have the marquee up there. So lots of great games in here. And our main MAME collection over here has over 3,000 games in it. So it's just massive here, but you can see again, each of these subcategories here, or sub-collections rather. So we have beat 'em up style arcade games, flying arcade games, puzzle arcade games, run and gun, etc. So I'm going to scroll through here a little bit further because I want to show you guys that we have Capcom 1 through 3 in here. We have Cave, we have, let's see what else, Data East specific games. So you can go in, and if you were looking for like Midway games, for example, I'm sure there's Midway in here. You can go, yeah, here we go, Midway right here. You could just go in here and find all your Midway titles, and you can see how they populate in really nicely. So that doesn't list every single title necessarily for, you know, this specific collection, but it still gives you a great selection of stuff there. So we're going to go through. And here you can see we have a bunch of Sega options. We have the STV, we have Sega Classics here. If we continue on, I know we have the Sega Model 3 in here. We have light gun games, which is a great collection to dive into if you're a big light gun gamer like I am. Alien 3 The Gun, one of my favorites. Area 51. They even have Area 51 with Maximum Force. This was a game that I spent tons of time playing as a kid in the arcade. So tons of great stuff here. Carnival, love that game. Catch 22, we've got Carnival King, tons of great stuff. Chiller's an interesting one. Clay Pigeon, Crypt Killer, Deer Hunting USA, Desert Gun, lots of great stuff here. Egg Venture's a fun one. Jurassic Park, Lethal Enforcers are in here. Regular Maximum Force, Operation Wolf 3, Operation Thunderbolt, Police Trainer, love that one as well. If you're an Aerosmith fan, you got to check out Revolution X, Sharpshooter, tons of great stuff. So I'm going to get out of here before I spend all my time reminiscing, and we're going to keep it moving. We have a Thomas Wave in here, we have Sega Model 2, which is a great collection. If you're not familiar with this, get in here, test it out. We've got Daytona USA, USA Deluxe, GTX in here, Dynamite Cop, I believe House of the Dead's in here. Tons of great stuff. So we're going to back out. And over here we should have Sega Model 3 as well. And then Naomi is our last one. But let's take a look at Sega Model 3. We've got Daytona USA 2 as well as the Power Edition. This one is Battle on the Edge, Virtual Striker, Virtual Fighter games, Lost World, Jurassic Park, Star Wars Trilogy, Ski Champ is an awesome one. Scud Race, can't go wrong there. The Harley Davidson games, and this one right here, Dirt Devils. Check it out. Lots of good stuff here. So we're going to back out. We'll actually jump into the console collection next. So over here we have all of our console collections. So we have Flashback Classics, we have Atari 2600, 5200, 7800, ColecoVision, Dreamcast. How many Dreamcast titles do we have in here? We have 20 titles in here. So Crazy Taxi, Fur Fighters, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Power Stone 2, Resident Evil Nemesis. Lots of great stuff. We've got the Sonic Adventures 1 and 2, Soul Calibur, Unreal Tournament. Great selection here. Moving on, we have Nintendo GameCube next in line. We'll take a look at what GameCube offers. So we have 17 titles in here. Great game. Beyond Good and Evil's good. Mario Kart Double Dash, got to have that in here. Metroid Prime's a good one. Paper Mario, Pikmin 2, Resident Evil 4. And that is listed in here twice because that's a double disc game. So one is disc 1, one is disc 2. Star Fox Assault is great. Star Wars Rogue Leader, another great title here. Super Smash Bros. Melee. 007 Nightfire. I love the 007 games. In fact, I love them more actually for GameCube. That's how I grew up playing them on the GameCube. They were released, I believe all the same titles were released on Xbox as well as PS2. So how many did we have in there? 17? Yeah, 17 in there. So that's a pretty good size collection. Now you got to remember, these games take up a lot of space. So, you know, in a perfect world, yeah, I'd love to see like 300 GameCube games in here, but it's just not feasible for a 1 terabyte setup. But I know Retro Beast has those larger selections on the 4 terabyte build that he's got. And then, of course, the 96 terabyte build is just absolutely insane. I do have videos on those as well, so I'll make sure to put links in the description of this video. So if you haven't yet experienced those, you got to check them out. So Genesis here, 824 games. That's really all I wanted to see was, you know, how many titles were included in here for Genesis. One of my favorite collections. We have Intellivision over here. We have Neo Geo in here, Neo Geo X. We have N64 DD, which is disk drive. We have Nintendo 64 regular. Let's see how many N64 games. 299 games. So we'll kind of scroll through here. In fact, I'm going to go the opposite way because I'm a big old school wrestling fan. So I love seeing just these little clips, in fact. So we've got No Mercy here. Probably one of the best, if not the best, N64 wrestling game. I like this one too. So it's a toss-up between WCW NWO Revenge and No Mercy, for me anyways. Backstage Assault was absolutely horrendous, but lots of good games in here. We got all the Turok games. We got the Tony Hawk games in here. What else do we have? Super Mario 64, Super Smash Brothers. We've got StarCraft 64, Star Wars titles in here. Probably jump into a Star Wars title to test out this collection at the end of the video. Lots of great stuff here. So I'm going to back out. We have NES here with, let's see how many titles. 858 games for Nintendo Entertainment System. PC Engine, PlayStation. How many PlayStation games do we have? We have 41 PlayStation 1 games. So we got the Crash games, Die Hard, Trilogy's a good one. Dino Crisis, Driver, Grand Theft Auto in here, Gran Turismo, Medal of Honor, probably what I played most as a kid. Lots of good stuff. Resident Evil, Spider-Man, Tomb Raider, Tekken 3, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Awesome. All right, PS2 games. How many do we have in here? 19. So again, same thing goes for GameCube. I'd love to see more titles for PS2, but in order to get, you know, all these titles in here, obviously we're going to have some limitations, so I get that. 19 is a good selection though, or a good number rather. So we've got God of War 2, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Kingdom Hearts, Maximo, Metal Gear Solid 3, Ratchet & Clank, Shadow of Colossus, Silent Hill 2, Street Fighter, Tekken Tag Tournament, one of my favorites. Good selection. We've got some Contra in here, we've got some Crash, so a little bit of everything. I mean, it's going to give you, you know, a taste of what is possible here. But yeah, I'd love to see more. But again, I totally get why there are limitations. So still some great Sega collections in here. Mark III, 32X, Master System. How many Master System games? 320. That's awesome. Sega Saturn. want to see how many. We have 20 titles here. I know people always want to have, you know, obviously the most they can for each of these collections, but Sega Saturn, 20 is pretty good for that. Decent selection in here. Not all of my personal favorites are in here, but I'm a little weird with Sega Saturn. I like stuff that, you know, isn't super mainstream. So do we have any Sonic titles in here, though? I'm not seeing any Sonic for Sega Saturn. All right. So we have SG-1000. We have Super Nintendo. How many Super Nintendo games? 787. That's a good number. Super Graphics. Lots of great stuff in here. Some old school stuff. Virtual Boys, like 20-something, 22. Yep. All right. We have Nintendo Wii, one of my favorite collections. So only 6 games in here. Let's see what we have, though. We have Super Smash Bros. Brawl. It's a good one. GoldenEye 007, Mario Kart Wii. Need for Speed Nitro is a good one, too. Got some Capcom in here. All right, so good selection. Now, those titles do take up a decent amount of space. So, again, limitations with 1 terabyte. We have Wii U in here. How many titles? 6 titles for Wii U. And these are good titles. I like all of these. I'm actually familiar with most of these as well. So, that's definitely good. We've got, and I believe this is our last one in here, original Xbox. So, how many titles? Just 5 in here. We've got Halo Combat Evolved, the original Halo. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a great one. Half-Life 2. And I saw that we have the other Half-Life in PS2, if I'm not mistaken. That's a good title. So, yeah, I mean, good selection. All right, so we're going to back out of this one. We're going to go over to handhelds. That is our next collection of more collections. All right, so here we are inside of the handheld side of this build. So we have Atari Lynx right here off the top. We have Nintendo Game & Watch. We have Game Boy Advance. How many Game Boy Advance games? 1060. It's a typical number for this. We have Game Boy Color here. 575 games for Game Boy Color. We have original Game Boy. 864 original Game Boy games, Game Gear from Sega, Neo Geo Pocket, Neo Geo Pocket Color, Nintendo 3DS. How many of those we have? 6 of those. So we got some Pokemon in here. We've got Zelda. We've got some Super Mario 3D Land. Good selection. We have Nintendo DS. 761 games for Nintendo DS. You can see how these populate in here. Love that we get the little background cover art as well behind the logo list. All right, we'll continue on. We have Nintendo Pokemon Mini here. Those are popular. We've got PSP with how many games? 12 games for PSP. Good selection. We've got some God of War, Ghosts of Sparta. Decent selection here. We'll back out. And here's probably what most people are going to get stoked about. Nintendo Switch. We also have Wonder Swan. Oops, went too far there. The fuck? And now this is the collection I think everybody's going to get all jazzed up over, and that's Nintendo Switch. So how many Nintendo Switch titles? We've got 10 in here. 10 is definitely a good number. So we've got some Animal Crossing, we've got Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Mario Kart Deluxe 8, Metroid Dread. We also have Super Bomberman, we have Super Mario Odyssey, Zelda, Link's Awakening, Tears of the Kingdom as well. So definitely some pretty advanced games in here for Nintendo Switch, so that's cool to see. And that is going to do it in here for our handheld selection. Now, next one over, we have our collections. So this is kind of just a custom sort of collections option here where you can go through, and I like it because you can further explore. So if you're a Donkey Kong fan, maybe you just got into Donkey Kong games, you come over here, jump into Donkey Kong, and you can find all the different titles. And obviously here, this is the original Donkey Kong here. And then you can go all the way up through kind of the evolution of Donkey Kong titles. We've got the classic arcade ones here. We've got Donkey Kong 64, we've got Donkey Kong Country, a couple different versions of that because it was made for different platforms. Country 2, Country 3, Donkey Kong Jr., and let's see, Donkey Kong Land 2, 3, etc. The verses, let's see, what else do we have here? Lots of great ways to explore this. Now, I'm not seeing the Switch one in here, but so this isn't 100% complete, but certainly gives you the ability to go in and further explore certain collections. So we'll go out, we have Double Dragon in here, we have fighter games, we've got Final Fight, what else do we have? Golden Axe titles, Marvel titles, Killer Instincts in here, Metal Slug collection, and there's tons of Metal Slug games, so you can go through here and, you know, kind of, again, go through the evolution of the entire franchise. What else? I'm sure we've got some Mortal Kombat over here. I'm sure we've got Pokemon. So this right here, if you're a Pokemon fan, there's 23 titles in here for Pokemon. You can find all of your, you know, Game Boy Pokemon titles in here. I mean, if you had the original games for this entire collection, it would be thousands upon thousands of dollars because these games are just so expensive. So it's really cool to come in here and see, you know, all these titles laid out together, easily accessible. Pokemon Stadium, obviously. We've got Pokemon Pinball even. I remember playing that on my Game Boy Color back in the day. I believe it was this version. Yep. So tons of great stuff here. Pokemon Dash is good too. So back out. And again, we'll go through here, Simpsons games, Sonic the Hedgehog, Star Wars. If you're a Star Wars fan, drop in here. There's 39 Star Wars titles. They've got the Lego ones. They've got the early Super Nintendo ones. I'm sure we've got the GameCube titles in here, and 64, etc. So everything is nicely laid out within here. There's Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Squadron. Excellent games. If you haven't checked those out, check them out. Whether you like Star Wars or not, they're amazing titles. Let's see, Super Mario Collection, Tekken, Terminator, Tetris, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, WWE versus UFC, Zelda, Castlevania, Contra, Disney titles, tons of great stuff here. So I'm digging the selection here. Again, I said this before, I'll say it again, 1 terabyte, you're going to have limitations. Just because the more advanced collections just take up a lot of space. Every single game takes up a lot of space. So you have to obviously limit what's included on here when trying to cram as much as we can onto a 1 terabyte setup. So I get why Chris Coolmod did things the way that he did on here, but really love this setup here. I love the layout. It is easy to navigate. Really well polished here for sure. So I'm going to jump into some gameplay demos here for a bunch of different collections so we can get a feel for what the style of playing is like here, what the performance is like on this. Definitely interested to see if we have any shortcomings just because it is a micro SD card. Usually I try to stick with SSDs or hard drives just because they do seem to perform better, but this is a high quality micro SD card. It did come on a SanDisk, so let's dive into some games and see what the performance is like on here.
It's a new lap record. Beautiful catch! Leaping! First down! Bledsoe, lateral, to Martin. Beautiful catch! Looks like a running play. Bledsoe, lateral. Come on!
Alright guys, this was a great experience here on Chris Coolmod's Retro Beast 1TB micro SD card. Now, I do want to mention this is a SanDisk brand micro SD card, which I really find to be reliable. When I use micro SD cards for gaming, the only two brands that I'll ever deal with are SanDisk and Samsung. So really cool to see that he's utilizing a good brand. We see a lot of generic crap out there these days. Those never work out. They're super prone to corruptions or just, you know, not reliable in any way. So SanDisk is definitely one of the two best ways to go here. So good to see that he's using good quality stuff. Now this is 1TB obviously, so we're going to have limitations in terms of what is included in those more advanced collections. Xbox, PS2, Wii U, Switch, all that stuff. The ROMs take up a lot of space, so we're going to have smaller collections here. And coming into this, obviously from having tested out the 96TB setup or the 4TB setup, you know, obviously this is just a fraction. This is a little bit of a sampler, if you will. So great selection of games though. Obviously though, worth mentioning that you can actually customize this. You don't have to leave it exactly as you get it. You can add games, remove games, clear out stuff, and you can also do those one-click updates that Chris Coolmod does offer with his stuff, where you just simply update to whatever is the latest and greatest. So you don't have to worry about getting something that's going to be outdated, you know, 2 weeks after you get it or a month after you get it. You can always stay up to date with Chris Coolmod's products, which I think is really awesome. So in addition to that though, the performance on here was absolutely great. Now I'm using an HP Pavilion gaming PC. Performance is going to depend on what you're using this with. And I did come across on his website that he actually lists a bunch of recommended specs, as well as products that you can use this with. So if you're, you know, wanting to use this with a laptop, you can go to his website and see if your specs line up with what is recommended. You can go and see, you know, what devices this will work with. Fair warning, this will not work with a Steam Deck. I believe he has a Steam Deck setup though, but this isn't going to work with that. So if you intend to use this with the Steam Deck, it's not going to work. So just worth mentioning. I didn't realize that wasn't going to be, you know, possible, but I always intended to use this with the PC that I chose to, you know, demo everything with today, and it was a great experience there. Switch worked great, Wii U worked great. I tested a ton of games on here. I didn't include all of them here in this video, but that was just in an effort to kind of keep this as short and sweet as possible, knowing full well I was going to spend a good amount of time kind of combing through the whole setup here. But great offerings here on the 1TB setup, very reliable, and the setup process here is definitely simpler than that of the 96TB or 4TB setup from Chris Coolmod. So great selection here. If you're interested in more information, drop down to the description of this video. I'll put a bunch of links to Chris Coolmod's website, Discord, all that great stuff, so you can see, you know, what, you know, is available on there. So that's going to do it for today. Let me know what you guys thought of this setup here from Chris Coolmod's Retro Beast 1TB micro SD card. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you would like to see more of, less of, whatever the case may be. Let me know in the comment section below. That's going to do it for today though. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit the thumbs up on the video if you enjoyed the content today. And of course, hit subscribe to stay in the loop for all future videos right here on the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.